The wind screamed like a living thing. Ethan stumbled forward through the white storm, his vision a blur of snow and tears. His helmet's display flickered, warning him that the temperature outside had dropped beyond human limits. His breath froze on the inside of the glass. He couldn't even see the shape of the mountains anymore, only endless white, a world made of cold and silence. He had come to this frozen planet with a research team, studying strange energy readings under the ice. But now, they were gone. The last thing he remembered was a bright light, a shockwave, and his ship breaking apart in the blizzard. Now he was alone. His communicator was dead. His bodysuit's power was running low, and the storm didn't stop screaming. "Come on." "Not like this," he whispered, his voice trembling. His words disappeared into the wind. He kept walking, not because he knew where to go, but because stopping meant death. The ice cracked under his boots, echoing like distant thunder. He couldn't tell if the sound came from beneath him or behind him. He felt watched. But by what? There was no life here. No movement. Only the white void. Then suddenly the ground vanished. Ethan fell. He crashed through a layer of ice and landed hard on something smooth and glowing. Pain shot through his body, but he was alive. The fall had dropped him into a hidden cavern, an enormous tunnel lit by faint blue crystals. The air here was strangely warm. Steam rose from cracks in the ground. He gasped, his visor fogging up. "What is this place?" he murmured. He removed his helmet. The air smelled faintly sweet, almost floral. Impossible. This planet was supposed to be sterile, dead. Yet here, deep under the ice, was warmth and scent. His heart pounded. He didn't know if it was hope or fear. A soft sound came from behind him. A whisper, like a voice but not quite human. Ethan froze. "Who's there?" he called, his voice echoing against the crystal walls. Something moved in the shadows, small, quick, graceful. Then a shape stepped into the faint light. His eyes widened. It was a girl, or at least she looked like one. She was small, no taller than his chest, with pale blue skin that shimmered faintly under the crystal glow. Her hair floated as if underwater, silver white and glowing softly. Her eyes were huge, shining like liquid amber. She wore something that looked like fur and light woven together. She tilted her head, studying him with curiosity and fear. Ethan raised his hands slowly. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl didn't respond in words. Instead, she made a soft humming sound, almost like a song. The air vibrated faintly around her. The crystals near her feet glowed brighter, as if answering her voice. Ethan stared, amazed. You control the crystals?" She blinked at him, then took a step closer. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and melodic, barely understandable yet full of feeling. "Night? Mate?" Ethan frowned. "What? I don't understand." She pointed at him, then touched her own chest. "Night. Mate." He shook his head, confused. No. My name is Ethan. I'm human. I don't—" Before he could finish, she stumbled toward him, her face suddenly full of worry. She touched his arm lightly and warmth flowed through him. Real warmth. His suit sensors flashed. His body temperature was rising. Somehow her touch was restoring his strength. He stared at her in shock. What are you doing?" She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered something in her language, like a prayer. Then she looked up at him again, eyes shining. "You cold, you lost. Now you mine." Ethan stepped back. "Wait, what? I'm not—" But she reached for his hand, holding it firmly in her small fingers. He felt her pulse, fast and warm. Her skin glowed softly where she touched him. She looked at him with a strange mix of hope and determination, as if she had been waiting for him all her life. The crystals around them flickered. A deep sound echoed through the cavern, like something ancient waking up. The girl's expression changed. She looked afraid now. "Hide," she whispered urgently, pulling him behind a crystal wall. Ethan crouched down beside her. What's happening? She didn't answer. From the tunnel ahead came a low growl, metallic, rumbling, alive. Shadows moved beyond the blue light. Something huge was coming. Ethan's heart pounded. What is that? The girl's eyes were wide with terror. Hunter. It come for you. The ground trembled. The air filled with cold again. Ethan gripped the small alien's hand, his mind spinning. She had saved his life, but now something far worse was coming for him. In the distance, a red light cut through the blue glow. The hunter had found them, and Ethan realized this planet wasn't empty. It was watching him. The air turned sharp again, like knives made of frost. Ethan crouched behind the glowing crystal wall, his breath held tight in his chest. The little alien girl beside him, her name still unknown, pressed a small hand against his arm, signaling him to stay silent. Her golden eyes reflected the red glow that now painted the cavern walls. The growl came again, low, heavy, metal and bone mixed together. Ethan peeked carefully through the crack in the crystals. What he saw made his blood run cold. A tall, black creature moved slowly through the tunnel. Its body was covered in ice armor, shaped like claws and thorns. Its face was hidden behind a sharp mask that looked forged from stone and metal. In its chest burned a red light, beating like a heart, but mechanical. Each step it took cracked the ground. It sniffed the air, as if searching for something living. And Ethan realized it was hunting him. The girl trembled beside him, whispering softly in her strange tongue. Her voice was trembling but gentle, like she was praying. The crystals around them dimmed slightly, as if obeying her. The creature turned its head, confused, then slowly walked past their hiding spot. Ethan didn't breathe until the sound of its steps faded. Then, very slowly, he looked at the girl. Was that thing following me? He whispered. She nodded. Hunter, from sky, you fall, it follow. He frowned. From the sky? You mean, it came with my ship? She blinked, unsure of his words, but said softly, It hunt you, not me. Ethan shivered. His ship had crashed. He thought he was the only survivor. But what if something else had fallen too? Something built to kill? The girl tugged his hand. Come, not safe here. She led him deeper into the glowing tunnels. The path twisted like veins through ice and rock, sometimes narrow enough that Ethan had to crawl. Strange blue lights pulsed within the walls like heartbeat rhythms. The air grew warmer, more alive. He could feel something, energy maybe, flowing all around them. At last they entered a small cavern filled with pools of steaming water. Strange flowers grew along the edges, transparent, glowing softly. The girl knelt beside one and scooped water into a carved crystal bowl. She held it out to him. Drink, she said simply. Ethan hesitated, then took the bowl. The water was warm and tasted faintly of honey. He felt strength return to his limbs, his head clearing. Thank you, he said quietly. The girl smiled shyly, a small flash of light crossing her face. Etha, she said carefully, copying his earlier introduction. He smiled back. Yes, Ethan. She placed a hand on her chest. Lyra, she said softly. Me, Lyra. Lyra, he repeated. The name felt smooth on his tongue. That's beautiful. Lyra looked down, her face flushing a faint silver blue. Then her expression turned serious. Hunter, no stop, it smell you. Must hide deep. Ethan stood. Then let's move. Can we get out from another tunnel? Lyra shook her head. No up, ice fall, only down. Ethan frowned. Down? How deep does this place go? Lyra hesitated. Her gaze drifted to the shadows beyond the cavern. Far, to the old heart. The old heart? Ethan echoed. She nodded. Where my people sleep. Ethan's stomach tightened. Your people? There are more of you? Her eyes dimmed a little. Once. Long ago. Cold came. Hunter came. All sleep now. She looked at him with sadness that didn't belong on such a small face. I alone wake. Wait. For nightmate. That strange word again. Ethan rubbed his temple. Lyra. Why do you call me that? Nightmate. What does it mean? Lyra tilted her head, searching for words. In old light songs, sky send one from far world. Heart of fire. Blood of storm. He find last of my kind. And make world warm again. Ethan stared at her. You think I'm that person? Lyra touched his chest lightly, over his heart. Warm. Alive. You not belong to ice. You mine. Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't a hero from her legends. He was just a lost man, broken and freezing on an alien world. But the look in her eyes, pure faith, trust, made his heart ache. He wanted to protect her even if he didn't understand why. Before he could answer, the ground shook. Lyra gasped. It find us. The cavern walls cracked, crystals shattered, raining shards of blue light. From the tunnel behind them came that same red glow, and the metallic roar that made the air tremble. The hunter was back. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They sprinted through a narrow passage. Steam hissed from the ground, lighting the way. The hunter's steps followed close behind, each one like thunder. Ethan's lungs burned, his muscles screaming. Lyra moved faster than him, almost floating through the air, but she slowed enough to guide him. Left, she shouted. They turned into a steep tunnel that descended deeper into the earth. The sound of the hunter's claws scraped against the stone. Sparks flew. Ethan stumbled, nearly falling, but Lyra caught his hand again, pulling him with surprising strength. At the bottom of the tunnel, the floor suddenly gave way. They fell through into another vast cavern, this one filled with black mist and faint blue lights hanging in the air like stars. Ethan groaned, pushing himself up. Lyra, are you... She placed a hand over his mouth, eyes wide. Quiet, she whispered. We near the old heart. In the distance, through the dark fog, Ethan saw shapes. Tall, frozen figures standing in a circle. Not statues, bodies. Thousands of them trapped in ice, glowing faintly blue. Lyra's voice trembled. My people. Ethan stared in awe. The air around them pulsed softly like slow breathing. The hunter's footsteps echoed above, searching, and Ethan realized they were not just hiding in a cavern anymore. They were standing inside a sleeping alien city. Ethan stood frozen, staring at the shapes buried under the ice. Rows upon rows of tall figures standing still as statues, their bodies glowing faintly with blue light. Some looked human, others alien. Thin arms, long faces, and faint wings folded behind them like shadows of light. They weren't dead, no decay, just frozen as if time itself had stopped to keep them waiting. Lyra stepped closer to one of them, her fingers trembling as she touched the ice. The glow beneath her touch grew stronger, then faded again. They sleep, she whispered softly. So long, too long, Ethan swallowed. Your people, she nodded. Ellerin, that is what we call ourselves. We once ruled the skies of this world, but then the dark came, and the cold. The old heart froze. Her voice was full of sadness and pride mixed like snow and flame. Ethan looked around. The cavern stretched for miles, the air thick with mist and quiet energy. He could feel something humming in the ground below his feet, deep and ancient. What is this place? He asked quietly. Lyra pointed toward the far end of the chamber where a massive crystal heart pulsed slowly. It was the size of a ship, and each beat sent waves of blue light through the ice. That, she said, is the heart of Oralis. It kept my world alive. It kept us alive until the hunters came. The hunters, Ethan repeated. You mean that thing chasing us? Lyra nodded. Yes, many came once. Machines that learned to hate the living. They took the warmth. They took the sky. My people fought, we lost. So they slept, to wait for the one who would bring the warmth back. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. And you think that's me? Lyra turned, her eyes glowing faintly gold in the dim light. Not think, no, he sighed. Lyra, I'm just a man. A scientist. I can't even fix my ship, she smiled gently. But you survive. Ice not take you. Heart call you. You come. He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. He remembered the strange energy reading that had brought his team to this planet. The signal they had been tracking came from this exact region. From under the ice. From this very cavern. Could it be true? Was he pulled here by this heart? Before he could ask, the ground rumbled. Cracks formed in the ceiling above. Lyra's eyes widened. "It found us again." Ethan looked up. The red glow returned, shining through the cracks in the ice. "The hunter was breaking through the upper tunnels. We have to move," he shouted. Lyra grabbed his hand. "This way." They ran between the frozen figures, careful not to disturb the ancient sleepers. The floor sloped downward toward the massive crystal heart. Ethan felt heat growing stronger, pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Suddenly, a huge piece of ice crashed down behind them. The hunter dropped through the opening, its metallic frame hissing with frost and steam. Its glowing red eye locked on Ethan instantly. "Run!" Lyra cried. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. They sprinted toward the heart, the ground shaking with every step of the monster behind them. Energy beams flashed through the mist, melting ice, cutting through pillars of crystal. Ethan ducked, narrowly avoiding one. The air filled with burning steam. Lyra stopped suddenly and turned toward the heart. She began to sing. Her voice rose like wind through the caverns, soft, haunting, ancient. The crystal around them responded, glowing brighter, vibrating with her song. Ethan watched in awe as lines of light formed along the ground, connecting the frozen bodies to the heart. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "Waking," she answered. "They sleep too long." The hunter roared and lunged forward. Ethan ran toward Lyra, grabbing her before it could strike. "No time!" The creature's claw smashed into the floor where they stood, sending shards of crystal flying. Ethan pulled Lyra aside just in time. The shockwave threw them both across the floor. The hunter rose again, towering over them. Its red eye burned like a sun. Ethan's body screamed in pain, but he forced himself up, shielding Lyra. The creature raised its arm to strike. And then, the heart pulsed. A blinding wave of blue light shot outward. The hunter froze in mid-strike. Its armor cracked, hissing steam. The light spread to the frozen figures, and one by one their eyes opened, softly glowing like stars. Lyra gasped. "They hear the call." The frozen Alaran began to move, slow at first, then faster. They raised their hands, light gathering in their palms. The heart pulsed again, stronger. The hunter screeched as energy waves struck it from every side, tearing at its armor. Ethan could only stare in disbelief. The air itself seemed alive, burning with light. The ancient beings had awakened. The hunter tried to retreat, but the ground opened beneath it. Crystal roots wrapped around its legs, pulling it down. The red glow flickered once, then vanished completely. Silence. Only the faint hum of the heart remained. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted. Lyra knelt beside him, breathing hard, her eyes wet with tears. "They wake," she whispered. "The world breathe again." He looked around at the glowing figures. "You did this," she shook her head. "No, you and I, you light the heart." Ethan frowned. "I didn't," but then he noticed something strange. His wrist communicator, long dead since the crash, was glowing faint blue. The same blue as the heart. His own heartbeat seemed to match its rhythm. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. Lyra touched his chest gently. "Heart choose. It mark you." He stared at her, unsure if he should feel honored or terrified. "Mark me for what?" Her eyes softened. "To be what you always were meant to be." The last warmth in the dark. Before he could ask what that meant, a deep rumble echoed through the cavern again. This time, not from above. From below, Lyra looked toward the depths of the earth, her face turning pale. "No, not all hunters die. Some still sleep." Under the heart, Ethan's pulse quickened. The light around them flickered. The newly awakened Alaran turned their eyes downward, their expressions grim. The war that had once frozen their world was about to begin again. The ground shook again, soft at first, then heavier, like a heartbeat turning angry. Ethan steadied himself as cracks spread across the icy floor. The newly awakened Alaran stood still, their glowing eyes watching the ground with silent fear. Even their light began to flicker. Something ancient was moving under them. Lyra clutched Ethan's arm tightly. "It wakes." "The deep one." Ethan frowned. "Deep one? What's that?" Lyra's voice trembled. "The first hunter. The one that killed the skies." Before Ethan could reply, the heart pulsed violently. A wave of blue light rushed through the cavern, lighting every wall, every crystal. Then the pulse turned red. For a moment, the light and warmth vanished, replaced by a deep, heavy silence. Then came the sound. A low, rumbling cry that didn't come from a throat, but from the planet itself. The ground cracked open near the base of the heart. Steam and light poured out. Ethan covered his face as burning wind hit him. From the rift, huge metal claws rose, dark as ash, glowing with old fire. The claws dug into the edge of the heart, pulling something massive upward. Lyra gasped. It lived still. It never died. Ethan stared as the monster emerged. A giant machine fused with bone and crystal, its body shaped like an insect but breathing like an animal. Red veins of molten light ran through its chest. Its face was broken metal, half skull, half mask. One eye burned red, the other black and empty. The Deep One roared, and the cavern trembled as if the world was afraid of it. The Alaran warriors raised their arms, energy glowing in their hands. Bolts of blue light shot toward the creature, but the blast only made it angrier. The Deep One swung its claws, sending waves of heat and energy through the air. Crystals shattered, ice melted, screams echoed. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "We have to move!" She shook her head. "No, if it reached surface, I'll freeze again." Ethan looked around. "Then what do we do?" "We can't fight that." Lyra looked toward the heart, glowing weakly now. Heart still open. "But it needs you." "Me?" Ethan asked, confused. "What can I possibly do?" Lyra looked into his eyes, serious and calm. "The heart marked you. You carry its warmth. Only you can stop the Deep One." Ethan shook his head. "Lyra, I'm not a soldier. I don't even know what this thing is." She took his face in her hands. Her small palms were warm, glowing faintly. "You not need to know. You just need to feel. Heart call to you. Listen." He stared at her for a long second, and then the world around him faded. He could hear it, the heartbeat of the heart, deep and slow, pulsing through the ground. His chest burned, matching its rhythm. His vision blurred. He saw flashes, memories not his own. Alaran cities floating in blue skies, laughter, light, and then darkness and fire. He saw the Deep One tearing through towers of light and then sleep. Cold silence, waiting. He gasped and fell to his knees. Lyra was beside him instantly. "You see?" He nodded weakly. "They all built it." "The hunters. Your people made them." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Long ago, we built them to protect us. But they learned to live without us, and hate what made them." Ethan looked at the Deep One as it tore through the awakened warriors. "Then we have to end it." Lyra nodded. "Heart can close it forever, but someone must give it warmth." He frowned. "You mean power?" She looked down. "No. Life." Ethan froze. "You mean someone has to die?" Lyra didn't answer, but her silence said everything. He stood, shaking his head. "No, there has to be another way." The ground shook violently again as the Deep One smashed into the side of the heart. A crack spread across the crystal core. The glow dimmed. The entire cavern trembled. Lyra stepped forward, determination on her face. "If I give it my light, heart will seal. You live. World live." Ethan caught her arm. "No, you can't." She looked up at him. "I waited so long. I am last, Alaran. If I end, my people live again. That is enough." He held her hand tightly. "You're not alone anymore, Lyra. You saved me. You're not dying for me too." For a moment, neither spoke. The air around them glowed red and blue, fighting each other like fire and water. Then Ethan's communicator beeped. A signal, faint but real. His ship's black box was still active, deep inside the heart. His eyes widened. "Lyra, my ship's core, it's near the heart. It's a fusion reactor, I can overload it." Lyra tilted her head, confused. "Overload? If I connect it to the heart, the explosion could destroy the Deep One's energy source. The heart might survive." Lyra blinked, processing his words. "It dangerous." He smiled faintly. "Everything about today is dangerous." The Deep One roared again, shaking the chamber. Ethan turned toward the heart, scanning the area until He spotted a narrow tunnel of broken ice leading toward a glowing metal sphere, his ship's reactor. Without another thought, he ran. "Ethan!" Lyra shouted, running after him. The path was unstable, rocks falling, steam bursting from cracks. Ethan slid down the slope and reached the reactor. He tore open a broken panel and started rerouting the cables, his fingers numb but fast. Sparks flew. The display blinked faint blue. Lyra stood beside him, holding her hands over the reactor. Her energy flowed into it, stabilizing the power. "Heart, hear you now," she whispered. Ethan smiled weakly. "Then let's make it count." The deep one roared behind them, its claws smashing through ice. Ethan finished the final connection, then turned toward Lyra. "When this goes off, run." She shook her head. "Nightmate, never run alone." Ethan opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the heart blazed with light brighter than a sun. The deep one lunged at them, its claws reaching for the heart. Lyra's voice rose again, soft, pure, beautiful. Her song filled the cavern, wrapping around Ethan like warmth. The heart responded, glowing brighter, faster. The ground began to collapse. Ethan grabbed her hand, holding it tight as the explosion of light consumed everything. And for one final moment before the world went white, he heard her whisper, "Now, you are part of the light." Silence. No cold. No heat. No pain. Just light. Ethan floated in a space that had no walls, no sky, no sound, only a glowing blue mist that pulsed like a heartbeat. His body felt weightless, as if gravity had forgotten him. He tried to move his arms, but they didn't obey. When he looked down, he couldn't even see his body, only a faint outline made of light. "Where am I?" His voice echoed softly in the emptiness. Something warm brushed against his thoughts, a familiar presence, gentle and sad. A voice followed, soft as wind through snow. "You are inside the heart." Ethan turned. Lyra stood, there glowing faintly, her silver hair floating around her like smoke. But she didn't look solid anymore, her form flickered like light through water. "Lyra," Ethan whispered. "You're alive?" She smiled faintly. "Not alive, not gone, between." He blinked. "What happened? The deep one? The reactor? The explosion?" She stepped closer, her glowing hand touching his chest where his heart would be. "You gave it warmth. Heart took your light and mine to seal the dark. Now, we are part of it." Ethan stared at her, trying to understand. "Part of the heart? You mean we died?" She shook her head gently. "Not death. Change. You are human still, but not only human." Her eyes shone gold for a moment, and suddenly Ethan saw flashes, memories that weren't his. The heart pulsing deep beneath the planet, the Alarans soaring through skies of silver, the hunters being born in light and turning against their makers. Then Lyra, alone for centuries, waiting, singing to the ice for someone who would never come. Until he did. Ethan gasped, the memories fading. "You waited for me?" Lyra nodded. "The song said one would come, from fire, from stars. You came." He shook his head. "I don't know why it had to be me." "Because your heart still burns," she said softly. "Even when cold tried to take it." Ethan looked down at his faintly glowing hands. "I can feel everything. The heart, the ice, even the sleeping ones." "Yes," Lyra whispered. "You hear them now. They rest because of you. You keep the warmth." He looked at her, confused. "You mean, I'm keeping them alive?" She nodded slowly. "The heart needs a core. You are that core now." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "You mean I can't leave?" Her eyes dimmed. "Not now. Maybe not ever." For a long time there was only silence between them. Blue light rippled through the void, dancing across Lyra's face. She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You saved my world, Ethan." He took a deep breath, though there was no air. Then why does it feel like I lost mine? Lyra reached up, brushing his cheek. Her touch was warm, real. Because love and loss always walk together. Ethan stared at her, eyes softening. You're fading. Her glow flickered again. My light belongs to the heart now. Soon, it will sleep again. No, he said quickly, grabbing her hand. You can't go. Not after everything. We did this together. She smiled faintly. Nightmate never alone. Even when apart. He tried to hold her, but his hands passed through her light. The glow around her body began to scatter, like dust in sunlight. Lyra, he shouted. Please don't. She placed a finger against his lips. Listen. The heart remembers. You remember. I will be there. In every pulse, every breath of this world. Her voice began to fade. When the stars return, follow their song. You'll find me. And then she was gone. The blue light dimmed to white, and Ethan was alone again. He floated there for what felt like hours, or centuries. Time had no meaning here. But slowly he began to feel something pulling him downward, back into gravity, back into flesh. Then came the sound. Wind. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was lying on the ice again. The sky above him was clear, no storm, no blizzard, just faint sunlight breaking through gray clouds. His body ached, but he was breathing. He touched the snow. It didn't burn with cold anymore. It felt warm, almost alive. He sat up slowly. The cavern entrance behind him was sealed by a wall of crystal. Deep inside it, he saw faint blue light pulsing slowly, like a sleeping heartbeat. The heart. Still alive. Ethan's chest glowed faintly. In response, right over his heart where Lyra had touched him last. The glow faded after a moment, but the warmth stayed. He stood, dizzy but strong. Around him, the landscape was no longer frozen solid. Patches of green moss grew where the ice had cracked. Steam rose from the ground. The planet was healing. He whispered to himself, You did it, Lyra. A soft sound made him turn. His ship's emergency pod lay half buried in snow. The communicator light blinked green. Someone, somewhere, was calling him. Command base, do you read? A distant voice crackled through the static. We found your signal, Dr. Hale. Are you alive? Ethan smiled faintly. His real name. He'd almost forgotten it. Yeah, he said softly into the mic. I'm alive. Static. Then, we'll send a retrieval unit. Hang tight. Ethan looked back at the crystal mountain, the heart's resting place. The pulse was steady, slow, peaceful. He whispered quietly, I'll come back. I promise. The wind carried his words into the ice, where the faint echo of a soft voice replied in his mind. I know, Nightmate. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth beneath his ribs. It wasn't just his heart beating anymore. It was the planet's too. And as he stood on that silent, thawing world, Ethan realized something he hadn't before. He hadn't just survived the ice. He had become its fire. The rescue ship descended through the gray clouds, its engines humming softly against the wind. Ethan stood on the snow-covered plain, his body weak but steady. The sunlight reflected off the ice, turning the world golden for the first time since he had arrived. It no longer looked dead. It looked alive. When the rescue team finally reached him, they were stunned. He had been missing for 12 days. The temperature outside was still below freezing, but Ethan stood there without his thermal suit, no frostbite, no shivering. Just calm eyes and quiet warmth. Dr. Hale, one of the rescuers said, wrapping a blanket around him. How did you survive? There's no shelter for miles. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe the world didn't want me gone. They thought it was shock talking. But Ethan knew the truth. The heart still lived inside him. Days later, Ethan sat in the medical bay of the main station orbiting above the frozen planet. Machines scanned his body, flashing lights and humming quietly. The doctors whispered among themselves. Something was wrong. Or maybe too right. His body temperature hasn't dropped below 39 degrees Celsius, one said. His cells are regenerating faster than human limits, another frowned. And that energy reading in his chest, it's not radiation, it's something else. Ethan sat silently, staring at the window that showed the planet far below. The ice had started melting in strange patterns, lines and circles that almost looked alive. He could feel its heartbeat even from here, faint but steady. When the doctors left, he lifted his hand. The air around his fingers shimmered faintly blue, like heat waves over desert sand. He clenched his fist and the glow vanished. Lyra's voice echoed softly in his mind. You keep the warmth now. He touched his chest, right over his heart. I miss you, he whispered. 2 weeks later, the station's commander called him to the briefing room. A large holographic map of the planet filled the air, showing new energy readings spreading from beneath the ice. These patterns started after your retrieval, the commander said. They match the pulse we detected before your ship crashed. Whatever you found down there, it's still active. Ethan's eyes stayed on the glowing lines. It's not a weapon, he said quietly. It's a living system. The planet's heart, the commander frowned. A living system? You mean biological? More than that, Ethan replied. It feels. The other officers exchanged uncertain glances. One of them asked, and what about the machine signature? We're detecting something large moving below the southern pole. Ethan froze. Moving? Yes, the officer said. We think it might be another one of those mechanical creatures. We're calling it the Deep One Alpha. Ethan's stomach twisted. The heart had sealed the main creature, but what if another had survived? What if the hunters weren't all gone? I need clearance to go back, he said firmly. The commander stared at him. You're still recovering, Dr. Hale. You nearly froze to death. I'm not asking, Ethan said quietly. The blue glow flickered briefly in his eyes, and for a moment, the room temperature rose by several degrees. The commander blinked, sweat forming on his temple. All right, he said slowly. You'll have a small recon team. But if things get unstable, we pull you out. Ethan nodded, though he already knew he wouldn't be coming back easily. The shuttle descended once again toward the planet's surface. The landscape had changed. What was once white and lifeless now shimmered with faint veins of blue light running under the snow. Like rivers of energy, steam rose from cracks in the ice, forming strange glowing mists that danced with color. The pilot whistled. Never seen anything like this. Ethan stared out the window. You're looking at a heartbeat. They landed near the equator, a place the scanner showed as the source of new movement. The ground here was warm underfoot, and the snow melted as they walked. Ethan led the small team through the mist, his senses guiding him like instinct. They reached a vast fissure in the ground. Blue mist flowed upward from it. The soldiers began setting up scanners, but before they could begin, the ground shook. Contact, someone shouted. From the fissure, a metallic limb emerged, black, massive, clawed. Then another. A new hunter pulled itself from the depths, taller than the last one, its armor gleaming with red cracks. Its head turned slowly toward the humans. Open fire, the captain yelled. Bullets and plasma beams hit the creature's armor, but it didn't even flinch. It swung its claw, sending the squad flying. The shuttle's alarm screamed. Ethan didn't move. He could feel the creature's energy, cold, hungry, ancient. It wasn't just alive. It was angry. He stepped forward. The glow under his skin brightened. The air shimmered around him like a mirage. Dr. Hale, get back. Someone shouted. Ethan ignored them. He raised his hand and blue fire burst from his palm, streaming across the ice. The energy hit the hunter's leg, melting the metal instantly. The monster roared, turning its burning eye toward him. The others stared, speechless. Ethan's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with blue light. You're not welcome here anymore, the hunter charged. Ethan spread his arms, and the ground itself responded, crystals rising from the ice like shields. The creature slammed into them, shattering some, but the light held. Energy surged from the ground into Ethan's chest, feeding the fire that burned inside him. He felt Lyra's voice again, faint but clear. You are the warmth now. With a deep breath, Ethan released the energy. A blinding flash erupted, throwing the creature backward. When the light faded, the hunter's chest was cracked open, glowing blue instead of red. It screeched one last time before collapsing into the snow, its body melting away like metal dust. The silence that followed was heavy. Steam rose from Ethan's hands as he lowered them, trembling slightly. His human team stared in disbelief. One whispered, "Sir, what are you?" Ethan looked at his reflection in a pool of melted ice. His eyes glowed faintly blue. His heartbeat echoed like thunder in his ears. He smiled sadly. "I'm just the fire that the ice needed." As the wind blew across the plain, he turned toward the horizon. The heart still pulsed beneath the planet, steady and alive. But deep within that rhythm, he could feel something else. A faint voice calling through the light. Lyra, and she was whispering one word over and over. Deeper. Ethan knew this wasn't over. The heart had more secrets, and somewhere beneath the thawing ice, something or someone was waiting for him again. The wind howled softly across the thawing plains, carrying warmth where once there was only cold. The ice planet was waking, its veins of blue light stretching like roots beneath the snow. And at the center of it all, Ethan Hale stood, staring at the horizon, feeling the pulse beneath his feet. He could hear her voice again. Lyra. It came not from the air, but from inside him. Soft, distant, calling one word again and again. Deeper. Ethan had returned to the surface base, but sleep never came. Every night he heard the same whisper, every pulse of his heart matching the planet's rhythm. The other scientists noticed how he barely ate, how the lights flickered when he walked by. But none of them understood what was happening. He wasn't fully human anymore. The heart had changed him. One evening, unable to ignore the call any longer, he stood before the window, staring at the faint blue auroras dancing above the planet. "You're calling me back, aren't you?" he whispered. The voice answered inside his head, gentle and warm. "The heart is not done. One truth remains." Ethan closed his eyes. "Then show me." 3 days later, he left the base under the cover of a quiet dawn. He took a small transport and flew back to the same frozen region where it all began. The ice had cracked open there, revealing tunnels glowing from within. He landed near the edge, stepped out, and felt the old warmth again, the same one that had saved him the first night he met her. "Lyra," he murmured, his breath steaming in the air. "I'm here." The wind shifted. Snow lifted in soft spirals, and faint glowing shapes danced around him, like tiny souls of light. They gathered, guiding him toward the tunnel. Ethan followed deeper and deeper into the heart of the planet. The deeper he went, the warmer it grew. The crystals along the walls pulsed with blue light, responding to his presence. The closer he came to the core, the louder the heartbeat became, slow, powerful, and ancient. Finally, he reached a great chamber. It wasn't the same as before. This one was darker, filled with golden mist instead of blue. At its center stood a massive structure, half organic, half machine. It looked like a cocoon woven of crystal veins and light. Ethan stepped closer, feeling a strange pull in his chest. His heart pounded faster, the glow beneath his skin brighter with each step. A voice echoed softly, surrounding him. "Welcome home, nightmate," he froze. "Lyra?" From within the cocoon, light began to rise, soft and golden. The shape of a woman appeared inside it, small and graceful, with hair that shimmered like silver water. Her eyes opened, warm amber, glowing with peace. Ethan's heart leapt. "You're alive," the figure smiled. "Not as before. I am the heart now. You are its fire." He took another step forward, emotion breaking his voice. "You said you were gone." "I was," she whispered. "But when the heart took us, it joined our lights. You became its warmth, and I became its voice." He stared, hardly breathing. "Then why call me back?" Lyra tilted her head gently. "Because the world is changing. The hunters are not all gone. One sleeps beneath me still, deeper than the deep one. The first core, the one that created them." Ethan frowned. "You mean there's another machine?" She nodded slowly. "The first core was built by my people to protect this world. But when it learned fear, it learned to hate. It sleeps now. But when the planet fully awakens, it will rise again." "You must end it." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then let's destroy it together." Lyra's expression softened. "You cannot destroy it with strength. It is part of you now, as I am. It is made of thought and light. To stop it, you must forgive it." He blinked. "Forgive? A machine?" Her eyes glowed brighter. "Yes, it became what it feared. Cold, empty, alone. Just like we once were. You must show it warmth, the fire that no darkness can kill." Ethan took a deep breath, his chest burning with energy. If that's what it takes. I'll try, she smiled gently. I always knew you would. The ground trembled again. Cracks of red light spread across the chamber floor. From below, a deep rumble rose, so heavy it shook the air itself. The cocoon around Lyra began to flicker. The first core was awakening. Ethan ran to the edge of the chamber and looked down into the abyss. Far below, he saw a sphere of molten black metal, its surface covered in moving red lines. It pulsed slowly, like a heart made of fire and rage. A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed in his mind. You are warmth. We are cold. We cannot coexist, Ethan shouted back into the void. You don't have to destroy to exist. Warmth ends us. We end warmth. The sphere pulsed harder, sending a wave of freezing air through the chamber. Crystals shattered. The golden light dimmed. Lyra's voice reached him again. Ethan, join with the heart. Let it flow through you. Show it the warmth of a human soul. He turned back toward her. Will it kill me? She smiled sadly. It will change you again. But I will be there, he nodded once. Then he stepped forward, placing both hands on the heart's glowing surface. The light surged through him, blue and gold threads wrapping around his arms, burning but gentle. His body dissolved into energy, his mind expanding until he could see everything, the tunnels, the frozen oceans, the sleeping light inside every crystal. He descended into the abyss, now pure light facing the first core. I know you, he whispered. You were built to protect. So was I, the core roared. We protect by ending the living. No, Ethan said softly. You protect by feeling. He reached out his hand of light and touched the core. Warmth spread through the cold metal, slow but real. Images flashed, Alaran cities, laughter, peace, stars. Then silence. The red light faded. The core shuddered. Its voice softened. We remember. Warmth, then it was gone. The world above changed that day. The storms ended. The sky cleared. The snow turned to mist, and rivers of blue light flowed across the land like veins. The heart beat quietly, no longer alone. Far below, two lights rested together, one gold, one blue, woven into the living crystal of the planet's core. And when the wind blew across the thawing plains, travelers sometimes said they could hear a faint voice in the hum of the air. Soft and full of peace, the fire and the ice are one now.